AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she completely ignored my boundaries. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who has always been extremely impulsive and, frankly, self-centered. Growing up, our parents favored her more than me, which caused a lot of tension, but we were still relatively close. Recently, however, our relationship has reached a breaking point because of her upcoming wedding. Emily got engaged about a year ago to a man named Jason, who is generally very quiet and agreeable. When she told me about the engagement, she seemed thrilled and immediately started talking about wedding plans. I have to admit, I'm not someone who loves grand celebrations. I'm more of a small gathering, low-key kind of person. I have repeatedly told Emily that I'm not interested in being overly involved in wedding planning. I'm happy to attend and maybe help a little, but the idea of being responsible for large-scale logistics stresses me out. About 6 months ago, Emily and Jason told me they wanted me to host a wedding at my house. I live in a small but cozy suburban home. I've hosted dinner parties and a few small family gatherings here, but this was an entirely different scale. I explained politely that my house is not suitable for a wedding. It's small, my backyard isn't big enough, and I don't have the funds to make it work for a large crowd. I suggested alternatives, maybe renting a small venue, a community hall, or even having a destination wedding somewhere manageable. Emily dismissed all of my suggestions, insisting that my house is perfect and that I could make it work with some simple adjustments. Over the next few weeks, Emily began making plans without my consent. She hired a decorator, chose a caterer, and even started sending out invites listing my address. I was shocked. I reiterated multiple times that I do not want to host a wedding, and I tried to explain that having that many people in my small space would be impossible and extremely stressful. She became defensive, claiming I was overreacting and that I was trying to ruin her special day. Things escalated when she sent me a list of responsibilities she expected me to handle as the host. She wanted me to supervise the setup and tear down of all decorations, coordinate with the caterer, manage parking, and basically oversee the entire day. I told her that I'm not capable of doing all of that and that it's unfair to place this burden on me. She accused me of not supporting her enough and being selfish. Finally, about a month ago, I sent her a firm message saying that I would not host her wedding under any circumstances. I explained that I love her and want to celebrate her marriage, but my home is not a suitable venue, and I cannot take on all the responsibilities she expects. I offered to help in smaller, manageable ways like picking up flowers or helping with her invitations, but nothing more. Since then, she has been icy toward me. She has told mutual friends and family that I am difficult and unsupportive, and a few relatives have even asked me if I'm trying to sabotage her wedding. Emily has also started planning a backup venue without me, and I've been completely excluded from the process. I feel hurt because I want to be close to my sister, but I also cannot compromise my mental health and personal space to accommodate her demands. The tension between us has grown so bad that my parents have gotten involved. They've told me that I should make sacrifices for my sister's big day and that my refusal is creating unnecessary drama. I understand that weddings are important, but this feels like they're disregarding my feelings entirely. My friends have told me I'm not wrong for setting boundaries, but my sister keeps messaging me with guilt-inducing texts like, "I can't believe my own sister won't help me on the most important day of my life." I have tried everything: calm reasoning, compromise, even offering to contribute financially if it would help rent a venue elsewhere, but nothing works. Every attempt to communicate respectfully is met with accusations of betrayal or selfishness. I love my sister, but I also need to prioritize my own limits. Now, with the wedding only a few weeks away, my parents and some extended family are subtly pressuring me again to just host it at your place for her sake. I am exhausted emotionally and just don't know what to do. I feel like no matter what I do, I'll be painted as the villain, but at the same time, I cannot sacrifice my home, finances, and peace of mind to host a wedding that is entirely beyond my capacity. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding even though she insists my house is perfect and expects me to do almost everything for her big day. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to pay for my brother-in-law's expensive birthday party after my sister publicly shamed me for not contributing. I, 36F, have always been the practical member of my family. I work as a project manager, and my husband, Tom, 38M, and I have a modest house, 2 kids, Ella, 8, and Max, 6, and a carefully managed budget. My sister, Jenny, 34F, and her husband, Sam, 35M, live nearby, and she tends to have big ideas about family events, often expecting everyone else to participate financially. A few weeks ago, Jenny announced that she wanted to throw Sam a memorable 40th birthday party. Her plan included renting a hall, hiring a DJ, a catered meal, decorations, and even a magician. She said she wanted everyone to chip in because it would be a big event. I asked what the total cost would be, and she mentioned somewhere around $8,000. I explained that this was not something I could afford to contribute to, at least not in full, especially because we were already saving for our kids' school fees and a small vacation we planned for the summer. Jenny insisted that everyone should pay at least $500 each. I tried to offer smaller alternatives, helping set up, managing invites, or contributing in a more manageable way. She dismissed all of these ideas and said, "Well, you could manage to spare $500 if you cared about Sam's birthday." I reminded her that my financial situation is my responsibility and that I can't be guilted into spending money I don't have. I assumed she would back off, but then she brought up the issue during a family dinner with my parents, my grandparents, and several aunts and uncles. She loudly asked, "So, are you going to contribute, or are you really going to let Sam down like this?" I told her politely that we couldn't contribute the requested amount, and that we were happy to celebrate in other ways. But she kept pushing, saying I was being selfish and uncaring. At this point, the situation started to escalate. Jenny started making public comments about me on social media, tagging me in posts about the party, and writing things like, "Really disappointed some family members don't care about Sam's milestone birthday." She also sent me a text saying, "You're always so practical and careful with money, but sometimes it comes across as selfishness. Maybe you should try to show you care once in a while." I felt cornered. I love Sam, but I can't control how much money he or Jenny expects me to spend. I decided to step back and not contribute, figuring that showing up to celebrate and helping with non-monetary things was still a meaningful gesture. I offered to bring a home-cooked dish and help with decorations on the day of the party, but Jenny refused, saying that anything less than money was not enough. The week of the party, Jenny went even further. She told our parents that I was refusing to contribute because I don't value family. My parents tried to mediate, saying that I could at least lend them some money and that I should consider how this looks. I explained that I wasn't refusing to celebrate Sam, only refusing to pay an amount I couldn't afford, and that pushing me financially or shaming me publicly was not fair. On the day of the party, I showed up with my kids and a homemade cake. Everyone else was there, and the event went well, but the tension was obvious. Jenny barely spoke to me, and Sam avoided the topic entirely. After the party, she posted several photos on social media and tagged me, again implying that I had been absent financially in her captions. Some extended family messaged me, saying I should have contributed more, while others privately said they understood my position and that the pressure was unreasonable. Since then, the relationship with my sister has been strained. She accuses me of letting everyone down and not supporting the family, while I feel I was justified in setting boundaries. My husband is supportive, saying I did the right thing financially and emotionally. I'm also concerned about the message this sets for my children. That money is more important than being present and supportive in ways that don't involve spending beyond our means. I've tried to explain all of this to Jenny calmly, but she says I'm overreacting and that I should have found a way to contribute more. I feel frustrated, disrespected, and exhausted from the constant guilt tripping, but part of me wonders if I really am being selfish for not giving $500 to a birthday party. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my brother-in-law's expensive birthday party after my sister publicly shamed me for not contributing, even though I attended and helped in other meaningful ways. Characters: 6,947. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she demanded I act as if our mother didn't exist. So I, 29F, have a complicated family situation that's been brewing for years, and I think I finally hit a point where I need to put my foot down. My sister, Erin, 32F, is getting married in a few months, and this has opened up a huge can of worms in our family. I'm honestly torn about whether I'm overreacting or if she's gone too far, and I need an outside perspective. Our mom passed away when I was 16, and Erin was 19. It was really sudden and left a huge gap in our lives. Dad did his best, but he struggled with depression, and Erin and I sort of had to navigate our grief on our own. Erin was always the responsible one, and I was the more emotional one who relied on her for support. Over the years, we drifted in some ways but stayed close in others. Fast forward to now. Erin is marrying Jake, 33M, and things were fine until she started planning her wedding. At first, I was excited to help and be part of it. I was fully on board with picking dresses, helping with decorations, and whatever else she needed. But then she started making some unusual requests. The first one that really raised a red flag was when she said she didn't want our father walking her down the aisle. She said he was too emotional and it would make everyone uncomfortable. She wanted me to walk with her instead. I tried to explain that this felt a little off, but she brushed it off, saying it was her day and her choice. I agreed reluctantly, even though I felt awkward about it. Then things escalated. About a month ago, Erin sent me a message saying that she didn't want me to mention or acknowledge our mom at all during the wedding. No photos, no speeches, no memories. Basically act as if she didn't exist. I was completely blindsided. I know she's allowed to plan her wedding how she wants, but the way she phrased it made it feel like a moral obligation. She said, and I quote, "Mom was gone a long time ago, and this is Jake's family and our new family. I want it to be about us, not about old pain." I tried to reason with her. I said that our mom was a huge part of our lives, and it would be impossible for me to pretend she never existed, especially on one of the most important days of our lives. I suggested subtle ways to honor her, like a small photo on the table or a short mention in a speech, but she was adamant. She accused me of trying to make the wedding about grief rather than celebration, which wasn't my intention at all. Over the next few weeks, she kept pushing. She wanted me to write a toast, but not mention our mom, not cry, not even hint at my feelings for her absence. She also told me that if I brought up my father's involvement or grief, I would be asked to leave. At this point, I felt like I was being asked to erase an entire part of my identity for one day. I tried compromising. I said I could write a speech focusing on the positive memories and what Erin and Jake meant to me without dwelling on our mom, but Erin wasn't satisfied. She insisted on 0 references, 0 displays, and even suggested I consider stepping back from the bridal party if I couldn't comply. That hurt deeply because I've been in her wedding since the beginning and I wanted to support her. Finally, I had a long conversation with Dad about it. He told me he understood my feelings, that Erin had a right to plan her wedding, but that he didn't think it was fair to completely erase our mother from our shared lives for a few hours. He said that if I felt strongly about honoring her, I shouldn't compromise just to avoid conflict. I felt validated, but also more stressed because now I had to make a choice. Last week, I told Erin that I couldn't attend the wedding if she insisted on ignoring our mom completely. I explained that this isn't about ruining her day or being dramatic. It's about my own boundaries and emotional well-being. She flipped. She accused me of trying to control her wedding, of being selfish, and of making it all about me. She also told our mutual friends that I was refusing to support my own sister and trying to create unnecessary drama. The fallout has been huge. Other family members are taking sides, and I've received messages from people I barely know telling me to just get over it and be happy for Erin. Dad is supportive but stressed because he doesn't want the family to split further. I've spent the last few days second-guessing myself and wondering if I'm really the *** hole here. On one hand, I feel like I should respect her wishes for her big day. On the other hand, Erasing my mother from my life for a few hours feels like erasing a huge part of myself. I can't pretend she never existed. I also don't think it's unreasonable to want to honor her memory in some small way, even if subtly. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she demanded that I act as if our mom never existed. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my partner. So this is going to be a long one, but I need some perspective because my family is currently acting like I'm the villain, and I'm genuinely confused. I, 28F, have a younger sister, 25F, who's always been a bit dramatic, but I've tried to support her in every way. Over the years, we've had our disagreements, but nothing that felt irreparable until recently. About a year ago, I started dating someone, Alex, 30M, who is genuinely amazing, kind, thoughtful, and supportive. My sister, for reasons I still can't completely understand, immediately disliked him. She made subtle comments at family dinners like, "I don't think someone like Alex is right for you," or "Are you sure you're happy with him?" I brushed them off, thinking it was just typical sibling teasing. But over time, her comments became more pointed and personal, often criticizing his job, hobbies, or even his clothing. She never outright said he wasn't welcome in our family, but the tension was palpable. Fast forward to last month, my sister announced her engagement. Everyone was excited, and she asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was thrilled at first. However, as wedding planning started, I realized this wasn't going to be a normal process. My sister's attitude toward Alex escalated drastically. She started sending me long messages about how she didn't want him at bridal fittings, how he might embarrass her in front of her friends, and even tried to pressure me into attending solo events without him. I politely told her I would not attend events alone because my relationship with Alex is important to me, and I would not participate in something that felt like an exclusion. She was not happy. She said that my refusal was selfish and that I was choosing my boyfriend over my family. Things got worse when she started dropping passive-aggressive comments on social media posts about our family, like, "Some people really can't put anyone but themselves first." At that point, I tried having a calm conversation. I explained that my relationship with Alex is serious and that excluding him or asking me to come without him felt disrespectful. I also tried to explain that if she wanted me to be part of her big day, she would need to accept him as part of the package. Her response was explosive. She said I was overreacting and that she never explicitly banned him from the wedding, so my refusal to attend was unreasonable. She also called our parents, who, unfortunately, sided with her, saying that I was making this about myself and my boyfriend, and that family should be more understanding. After weeks of back and forth, I finally made the hard decision to decline attending her wedding. I sent a message saying I loved her and wanted her to have a beautiful day, but I could not attend unless Alex was welcomed. Her response was a simple, "Okay, I see where your loyalties lie. Don't bother sending pictures." That hurt more than I expected because it felt like she was cutting me out entirely. Now, the fallout has been intense. Our parents and mutual friends are constantly asking me to reconsider, telling me that weddings are about compromise and that I'm being dramatic. My partner has been supportive, but frustrated that I feel pressured to choose between my family and him. Meanwhile, I'm questioning myself constantly, wondering if I overreacted or if I should have tried harder to attend solo events despite the tension. What makes this even messier is that my sister has started publicly implying that I chose my boyfriend over family in group chats, which has created a rift in our wider friend group. Some friends are telling me I might be overreacting, while others are supporting me fully. I keep going over every detail, trying to figure out if there was a middle ground I missed. But honestly, I feel like asking me to separate from my partner in order to attend her wedding is unreasonable. I love my sister and always wanted to have a close relationship with her, but this situation has made me feel unwelcome and disrespected. I don't want to create a family divide, but I also can't compromise my values or the respect I have for my relationship. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she has treated my partner? AITA for refusing to let my sister's new boyfriend stay in my apartment, even though he's family now. I, 27F, live in a small one-bedroom apartment in a big city. I've always been independent and very careful about my personal space. I work from home most of the time, and the apartment is really important to me as my sanctuary. My younger sister, Emily, 24F, has always been a bit more free-spirited and impulsive. We've always had a pretty close relationship, but sometimes our differences in lifestyle and priorities clash. About 6 months ago, Emily started dating someone new, Jason, 26M. I met him a few times at family gatherings, and while he seemed nice enough, I never really felt a strong connection with him. Emily, however, is absolutely smitten. She calls him constantly, texts constantly, and tells me about him nonstop. That's fine. I'm happy she's happy, but I'm not someone who wants a lot of extra people in my apartment, so I try to keep boundaries. A few weeks ago, Emily told me that she and Jason were thinking about moving in together temporarily because Jason's apartment was being renovated. I was surprised, but she said it would only be for a couple of weeks and that it would be no problem for me. I told her I needed some time to think because I really value my space, but I didn't want to outright say no. A couple of days later, Emily came over with Jason and basically assumed it was fine for him to stay at my place. They started moving some of his things in without asking me again. I was shocked. I told them that this was my apartment, and I wasn't comfortable having him stay here, especially uninvited. Emily got upset and said I was being unreasonable, and that since he's now part of our family, I should treat him like one. Jason seemed embarrassed and didn't say much. I explained that while I'm happy to hang out with Jason and Emily, my apartment isn't a hotel or a shared space. I work from home, I have routines, and having someone I barely know living here, even temporarily, would be disruptive. I offered alternative suggestions. Maybe he could stay in a nearby Airbnb or with friends until his apartment was ready. Emily got really defensive and accused me of being selfish and not caring about her happiness. She said that if I loved her, I would make Jason feel welcome. Since then, Emily has barely spoken to me. She's been posting on social media about how heartless I am and how I'm not supporting family. A few mutual friends have reached out, saying maybe I should compromise because she's clearly in love and this is a big deal for her. My parents have also called me, saying I should be more accommodating and that I'm being overly rigid. I still feel like I'm in the right. My apartment is my sanctuary, and I should be able to set boundaries for who stays here. I'm not against having Jason over for dinner or even a sleepover once in a while, but moving in, even temporarily, is a huge step, and I don't feel obligated to accept that just because he's dating my sister. Emily keeps bringing it up and saying I'm tearing the family apart over a few weeks, but I honestly think this is about respect for my boundaries. I don't want to damage my relationship with her, but I also don't want to give up my space or my comfort. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my apartment, even though she insists he's part of the family now. Character count, 6,486 if you want. I can also create a slightly longer version that pushes closer to 7,000 characters with added drama and more details about family dynamics, which tends to make stories hit front-page Reddit popularity. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my adult son's girlfriend move in with us after she threatened to call the police. I, 52F, live in a suburban home with my husband, Mark, 55M. Our two sons, Alex, 28M, and Jamie, 25M, both live independently. Alex has been dating his girlfriend, Rachel, 27F, for about 8 months. I have never had issues with Rachel personally. She seemed polite enough, but over time, her behavior toward me and my husband has become increasingly entitled and manipulative. About 2 months ago, Alex casually mentioned that Rachel had suggested she might move in with us temporarily while she got back on her feet after losing her apartment. I was immediately uncomfortable with the idea. Our home is our private space, and while we've helped family members in the past, we have rules about boundaries. I told Alex that while we care about him and Rachel, we could not have her moving in, especially without a clear plan, discussion about expectations, or timeline. Alex was frustrated but didn't argue much at that time. I assumed that was the end of it. However, Rachel began contacting me directly. She sent texts asking when she could bring her things over, implying it would only be for a week or two, and then later mentioning needing more time. I repeatedly told her that moving in was not an option, and that if she needed help finding a place, I was happy to assist with resources or temporary solutions, but that our home was off limits. Things escalated dramatically about 3 weeks ago. Rachel showed up at our door unannounced, carrying a suitcase. She demanded to speak with me alone. I told her I wasn't comfortable with unplanned visits and that she could not come in. She became confrontational and said, "I could call the police and tell them you're trying to kick me out. I have the right to be here." I was stunned and told her she was misinformed. She has no legal claim to live in our house without permission. She continued to insist that Alex would approve and that my refusal was cruel. I called Alex to come mediate. He was upset and argued with me, saying I should at least consider her situation. I explained calmly that she was welcome to visit, but not to move in. Alex left in frustration, telling me I was overreacting and that Rachel wasn't being unreasonable. He later texted me that she feels unwelcome and that I was forcing him to choose between his mom and his girlfriend. Rachel continued to make occasional unannounced appearances and left notes asking about moving in. One note said, "I don't understand why you are being so selfish. Alex and I are a couple. This is just temporary. Why are you making everything so difficult?" I responded each time politely, reiterating our boundaries and offering to help her find temporary accommodation or resources. 2 days ago, she arrived again, visibly upset, and told me she had contacted some friends who said it was illegal for me to refuse her and that she might have to involve authorities. I remained calm, told her I was confident in my rights as a homeowner, and asked her to leave. She finally left after a tense conversation, but not without making another comment about my cold and unwelcoming attitude. Our extended family has since weighed in. My sister said I should just let her stay a few nights to be nice, while my brother argued that I was completely justified in protecting my home. Alex has been distant, upset that I don't support his relationship, and has threatened to limit visits if I continue to refuse Rachel. My husband supports me completely, saying that boundaries are necessary and that our home is not a hotel. I feel torn. On one hand, I understand Rachel is in a tough spot and want to help family when possible. On the other hand, her behavior has been manipulative and aggressive. Allowing her to move in would create a constant source of tension, and I worry it would set a precedent for disrespecting boundaries in the future. I've tried to offer help in other ways, finding rental listings, providing information about temporary housing, but nothing satisfies her. I'm also worried about my children witnessing this behavior. Alex has always been independent, but Rachel seems to expect me to prioritize her needs over my family's comfort. I don't want to damage my relationship with him, but I also don't want to compromise my own boundaries or feel unsafe in my home. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my adult son's girlfriend move in with us after she threatened to call the police, even though my son says I'm being unreasonable. Characters, 6,952. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan our family vacation without consulting me. I, 32F, have always been the planner in my family. Growing up, I organized birthday parties, holidays, and even weekend trips for my parents and siblings. My sister, Emma, 29F, is more spontaneous, which works for her, but has always clashed with my need for structure. Recently, Emma got engaged to Matt, 30M, and ever since, the dynamics have shifted. A few months ago, our family decided to take a week-long vacation together. It's kind of a tradition for us to do something like this every year, rotating locations based on who's most excited about what. Typically, I handle the planning because I'm good at coordinating logistics, finding accommodations that suit everyone, and keeping costs reasonable. I don't do it to control everyone. I genuinely enjoy it, and it's always been appreciated by my parents and siblings. When Emma and Matt joined the conversation, Matt immediately started offering suggestions. At first, it seemed harmless. He was recommending destinations and activities. But soon, he began trying to take over the planning entirely. He emailed resorts, posted ideas in our family group chat, and even sent me a draft itinerary without asking if I wanted his input. He was very confident and kept saying things like, "I'll take care of it, so no need to stress," which I understood as a compliment at first. But when I tried to politely suggest we collaborate, he dismissed me, saying, "I know what I'm doing. You'll like it." My main concern was that Matt didn't know the family dynamics, everyone's preferences, or budget constraints. He suggested staying in a luxury resort that none of us could realistically afford, planning a multi-day hiking trip despite my parents' health limitations, and scheduling activities that conflicted with my brother's work schedule. I tried to explain these issues to Emma, hoping she would talk to him, but she said, "Matt just wants to help. Don't make it a big deal." The tipping point came when Matt booked a resort deposit without checking with me. I found out when my mom called, panicked because she wasn't prepared for the cost. I texted Matt immediately, explaining that the family had a budget and that booking without consensus wasn't okay. He replied that I was overreacting and trying to control everything, which felt ridiculous to me because I wasn't asking for him to step aside entirely. I just wanted to collaborate and respect everyone's limitations. After that, I told him and Emma that I would handle the planning as I always do. Emma was upset, saying, "Why are you being so controlling? Matt just wants to contribute." I explained that contributing is one thing, but unilateral decisions that impact everyone aren't acceptable. I also reminded her that this has been our tradition and that my experience prevents chaos and unnecessary expenses. She argued that family traditions shouldn't matter more than Matt's feelings. Matt and Emma started making passive-aggressive comments in the group chat, like, maybe we should just let someone else decide everything, as usual, which my parents noticed. Eventually, Emma sent me a long text calling me overbearing and refusing to accept that this is a joint family event now that Matt is involved. She implied that I was prioritizing control over family happiness. I felt conflicted. On one hand, I didn't want to ruin the family vacation or hurt Emma's relationship. On the other hand, I genuinely believe that planning this trip requires understanding our family's needs, and Matt was acting recklessly. I suggested a compromise. I would plan the main logistics, and Matt could choose one activity or meal experience per day. Emma agreed reluctantly, and Matt grudgingly went along. The situation escalated when I presented the finalized itinerary, which included a few of Matt's suggested activities that I deemed feasible. Matt criticized my choices, saying they weren't adventurous enough and too boring for the family. He started posting alternative itineraries in the group chat, and my parents and siblings expressed confusion over which plan to follow. I decided to have a family meeting via video call to clarify, emphasizing that we needed one unified plan. During the meeting, I explained the budget, accessibility, and scheduling concerns in detail. I also stressed that while we value Matt's input, taking over without discussion isn't acceptable. Emma got frustrated and accused me of humiliating Matt in front of everyone. Matt was visibly annoyed but didn't respond much. My parents backed me up, saying they preferred a single, practical plan over competing itineraries. My siblings sided with me too, except Emma, who remained silent for the rest of the call. Since then, things have been tense. Emma barely talks to me and only communicates through short messages. Matt continues to make subtle jokes about me being the family dictator whenever he can, which annoys the rest of us but isn't serious enough to confront directly. My parents tried to mediate, but Emma insists that I'm being controlling and ruining her fiancé's chance to bond with the family. I feel like I did the right thing by maintaining structure and ensuring the vacation doesn't turn into chaos or financial stress. At the same time, I understand that Matt might feel sidelined, but I think taking over planning without consulting anyone was unreasonable. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan our family vacation without consulting me? AITA for refusing to pay for my stepsister's wedding after my dad's funeral? I, 32F, have had a complicated family situation for most of my life. My dad passed away about 6 months ago, and his death has caused a lot of unresolved tension in my family to come to the surface. For context, my dad had remarried 15 years ago to my stepmom, and together they have my stepsister, Lily, who is now 28. My relationship with Lily has always been strained. We were cordial when we were forced to interact, but she's always had a very entitled streak, and my stepmom often undermined me growing up in subtle ways. After my dad died, my stepmom reached out to me about wedding plans. Apparently, Lily got engaged 2 months after his funeral, and my stepmom thought it was important that I contribute financially because, in her words, families support each other in times of joy and sorrow. I was shocked. Not only was this soon after my father's death, but I also lost my job around the same time and have been struggling financially. I told my stepmom that I simply couldn't afford it and that emotionally, I was still dealing with losing my father. She responded that contributing wasn't about money, but about showing family loyalty, and that not helping would be embarrassing and hurtful to Lily. I tried to reason with her, saying I wanted to be there for the wedding in other ways, like helping with planning, addressing invitations, or even doing some DIY decorations. But she kept insisting that financial support is the only way to truly show love. I told her again that it wasn't possible for me, and that if this was going to make me look like the bad family member, then maybe I needed to reconsider attending. When I told Lily about my financial situation, she laughed and said, "Wow, typical. Always finding excuses not to be part of the family. I guess Dad's money wasn't enough for you to show your love." That really hurt. I reminded her that I lost my father too, and that his passing affected me deeply, but she dismissed it entirely. A few weeks later, my stepmom called me again, asking for a specific amount, over $3,000 to cover part of the wedding costs. I said no, explaining that I simply cannot give that amount, especially given my current financial state. That's when the family drama really escalated. My stepmom told my dad's siblings, who all started pressuring me to contribute, because it's the respectful thing to do for family, especially after Dad's death. They implied that refusing to pay meant I was cold or ungrateful for everything my dad did for me. I decided to step back from the family entirely and not attend the wedding. When I informed Lily, she accused me of being selfish and trying to ruin her big day. She said she had already planned everything based on the assumption that I would contribute and that my absence would shatter the family image. My other half-siblings from my dad's first marriage also started sending passive-aggressive messages about how we're all paying, so it's only fair you do too. After that, my stepmom sent a message directly to me saying she hoped I would reconsider, but that if I didn't, I was making a choice that my father would have been disappointed by. Honestly, this made me furious. I feel like my grief and my financial struggles have been completely invalidated, and now I'm being guilt for something I cannot control. Some friends I've spoken to say that I'm not obligated to pay for someone else's wedding, especially when it's a stepsister who barely knows me, and especially after my dad's death. Other people, including extended family, are saying I should put my money where my love is and that this is how families stick together. I feel trapped between grief, financial stress, and family expectations that don't seem reasonable. I have no intention of paying the $3,000 or attending the wedding under these conditions. I want to mourn my father and rebuild my life without being guilt into funding someone else's big day. So, AITA for refusing to pay for my stepsister's wedding after my dad's funeral. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to lend my apartment to my sister during her rough patch. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 32M, live in a small city with my partner, Mia, 30F, and our 2 cats. We have a modest 1-bedroom apartment that we've worked really hard to afford, and honestly, it's the first place that truly feels like home for both of us. About 6 months ago, my younger sister, Emma, 28F, called me out of the blue, saying she was in trouble and needed a place to stay. Emma has a history of bouncing between roommates, moving every few months, and generally making poor financial choices. She's intelligent, funny, and kind-hearted, but she struggles with responsibility. My parents are well off and have helped her in the past, but apparently, she didn't want to ask them this time. She was living in a small studio downtown that got rented out, and she had no backup plan. When she called, she was very emotional, saying she had nowhere to go and her job wasn't stable. My first instinct was to help, but I hesitated. Our apartment isn't large. It's a one-bedroom with a living room that doubles as a dining space. And while we could technically put a mattress in the living room, it would be tight. We've also just gotten into a routine with Mia, and our home is one of the few places we both feel comfortable and relaxed. I told Emma that I needed to think about it. That's when she got upset and started pressuring me, saying things like, "I thought you'd help your own sister," and "I can't believe you'd let me sleep on the streets." She implied that by not letting her stay, I was somehow being selfish and cruel. I tried to set some boundaries, explaining that our place isn't really suitable for a long-term stay for someone else, and that our financial situation isn't set up to have an extra person on the lease. I also mentioned the cats, since they're shy and don't take well to strangers. I suggested she look for a short-term rental or even a sublet. Emma reacted very negatively, saying she felt betrayed and hurt. Mia supported me in this decision, which led to another argument. Mia said she didn't want our home to become a temporary hotel, that we both work long hours and need our space, and that adding another adult would completely disrupt our lives. Emma, of course, didn't take kindly to that, claiming Mia was being cold and unsisterly. The situation escalated when Emma started texting my parents, framing the situation as me refusing to help a desperate woman. They were disappointed in me, and while they didn't outright tell me I was wrong, they kept asking why I wasn't just being a good brother. This only made Emma more resentful. I offered to help in other ways. I helped her look online for short-term rentals, offered to pay for one night at a cheap motel so she wouldn't be on the streets, and even helped her update her resume. She appreciated some of these gestures, but kept hammering the point that it was the same as nothing compared to letting her stay in my apartment. Eventually, Emma found a small, overpriced studio a few neighborhoods away, and we thought things would settle. However, she has since been posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about family not helping her in times of need, which has caused some tension between my parents and me. My parents say they understand my perspective, but still feel guilty for not stepping in more aggressively. Here's the thing. I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I wanted to help her, I offered financial and logistical support, and I set clear boundaries to protect my home and relationship. I understand she was in a difficult spot, but I also feel like she expected me to sacrifice my own stability and comfort just because we're family. Mia thinks I handled it well, but she's also frustrated that the drama hasn't ended and that my sister continues to guilt-trip me. I've considered letting her stay for a few days just to smooth things over, but I feel like it would be unfair to us and set a precedent I can't uphold in the future. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move into my apartment, despite her being in a tough situation. AITA for refusing to lie to my husband's family about my sister-in-law's pregnancy after she asked me to cover for her. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 36M, for 8 years. We live in a modest house in the suburbs and both work full-time. Jake's family is very close-knit and sometimes overly involved in personal matters, which I've learned to navigate over the years. My sister-in-law, Emily, 28F, has always had a dramatic streak, but I've tried to be supportive because she is Jake's younger sister. About a month ago, Emily called me in tears, saying she had gotten pregnant unexpectedly. She said she wasn't ready to tell anyone yet, and she asked me to cover for her if anyone in the family started asking questions about her behavior or health. She wanted me to lie, saying that she had gained weight due to stress and that she was planning a diet to get back on track. I told her I wasn't comfortable lying. I explained that I could support her emotionally, help her plan how to tell the family, and be there for her during appointments, but I couldn't fabricate a story. She became upset, insisting that if I didn't lie, everyone would find out and judge her for being irresponsible. I offered to help her come up with a plan to gradually share the news, but she insisted that the family couldn't know yet. 2 days later, Emily came over to our house unexpectedly. She was very upset and told me that our mother-in-law had been asking questions about why she seemed tired and different lately. She asked again that I tell a little white lie, so she could avoid being grilled. I repeated my stance calmly, but she accused me of betraying her and said that I was choosing to protect Jake's family over her. I felt torn, but I stuck to my principles. I told her I would support her in other ways like driving her to appointments or helping her find resources, but lying was off the table. Emily left in a huff, but the situation escalated quickly. Later that week, at a family dinner, my mother-in-law asked me if I had noticed anything unusual with Emily, and I refused to comment beyond saying that I didn't know anything. Emily glared at me and whispered that I had made things so much harder for her. The following weekend, Emily's behavior became more erratic. She started sending me long, guilt-laden texts, saying things like, "I can't believe you won't help me. You're supposed to be family. I trusted you, and now everyone is going to think the worst of me." I didn't respond directly, only reminded her that I was happy to help in ways that didn't involve lying. Things came to a head 2 weeks ago. Emily told Jake that I had refused to help her, framing it as if I had been cold and unsupportive. Jake was shocked and upset because he knew I had never refused to support her in general. We had a long conversation, and I explained everything. She had asked me to lie, I refused, and I had been offering help in other ways. Jake was frustrated, but eventually understood my position. However, Emily didn't stop. She began subtly trying to manipulate family members against me, making comments like, "Some people only care about appearances," and implying that I was trying to make her life harder. Some family members started asking me questions in a pointed way, like why I wasn't more involved with Emily lately. I tried to stay neutral, refusing to answer questions that would require me to lie, but the tension was palpable. I also have my own concerns. I'm worried that if I give in and lie, it will set a precedent that I can be manipulated, and it could harm my relationship with Jake, who values honesty. I also feel that helping Emily lies to cover something personal is not really helping her. It's only delaying accountability and creating more stress in the long run. Jake and I have had several conversations about boundaries, and he supports me fully. He even offered to speak to Emily to set expectations, but she refused to listen to him. Some relatives have told me I was right to stay honest and set boundaries, but others have subtly criticized me, saying that family sometimes requires bending the truth and that I should be more flexible. I don't want to hurt Emily, and I want to support her, but I also feel strongly that lying to protect her from temporary discomfort is not the right approach. I've offered practical support, rides, advice, emotional check-ins, but nothing seems to satisfy her. I feel exhausted and anxious whenever family gatherings come up because of the tension she has created. So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to lie to my husband's family about my sister-in-law's pregnancy, even though she begged me to cover for her and now accuses me of being unsupportive. Characters, 6,964. AITA for refusing to lend my brother my car after he borrowed it without asking and crashed it. So this is a bit long, but I feel like the details matter. I, 28M, have a brother, Matt, 26M, and we've always had a pretty tense relationship, mostly because he's impulsive and rarely thinks about consequences. Our parents have tried to play peacemaker for years, but honestly, I've learned to just set my boundaries and stick to them. A few months ago, I finally bought my first car, a used but very reliable and meticulously maintained sedan. I saved up for years for it. It's my pride and joy. Now, Matt has a history of treating other people's belongings like they don't matter. He's borrowed clothes, tools, and gadgets from me and friends without asking, often forgetting to return them or returning them broken. I've had to have a lot of tough conversations with him, but somehow he never seems to take them seriously. About a month ago, my mom asked me if I could lend him my car for the weekend because his car broke down. I said no. She gave me the usual guilt trip about how he really needed it, and what kind of brother would I be, but I stuck to my guns. I had plans to visit a friend out of town, and honestly, I didn't trust him with my car. He has a history of reckless driving and has already totaled a rental car when he was 21. I figure it was better to set a boundary now rather than deal with the fallout later. Anyway, last weekend, I was at a small gathering when I got a call from Matt. He sounded panicked and told me he had been in an accident. He borrowed my car without asking while I was out. He claimed it was an emergency and he just needed it for a quick errand. The thing is, I live in a building with a secure parking garage and key access. My keys are always on my nightstand. The only way he could have gotten my car is if he took a spare I didn't know existed or if someone let him in. I haven't figured out which yet, but that's beside the point. He crashed it into a lamppost at an intersection about 10 minutes from my apartment. The car is mostly fine, some cosmetic damage, bumper bent, scratches, but it's drivable. I was furious, mostly because this is exactly what I was trying to avoid by saying no in the first place. When I got home, I refused to speak to him at first. My mom called me later, telling me that Matt is really upset and that I should forgive him because he didn't mean to cause so much trouble. She also said that I should lend him some money to cover repairs because he didn't have insurance for situations like this. I told her no. I refused to pay for it, and I refused to let him borrow the car ever again. I know he's my brother, but I don't owe him my property, especially when he disrespects my boundaries so blatantly. Now the family is split. My dad thinks I'm being too harsh and that I should help Matt out financially. My mom keeps making passive-aggressive comments about how families should help each other. And Matt has been sending me texts like, "I thought you'd understand. It was an emergency, and why are you making this a big deal?" I haven't responded to him. Some of my friends are telling me I might be the age for not forgiving him, but honestly, if I had lent him my car, this probably would have happened anyway. I'm not trying to be petty. I just want him to understand that he can't take my stuff without permission and expect me to fix things when he messes up. I feel like if I give in now, I'll just be reinforcing the idea that he can keep disrespecting my boundaries without consequences. But I also feel like the family pressure is building, and part of me worries I'm being too harsh. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my brother after he crashed my car that he took without asking. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she humiliated me in front of our entire family. This is going to be long, but I need some perspective because my family is split on this, and I feel like I might be overreacting. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Jenna, 25F, and our relationship has always been a bit rocky. We were close growing up, but once we hit our teenage years, it became more about competition and subtle insults. I've always been more career-oriented while she is focused on social life and relationships, and that has been a source of tension, especially with our parents, who are very vocal about their favorite child. Unfortunately, that tends to shift depending on the situation. Anyway, fast forward to last year, Jenna got engaged to a guy named Mark. I wasn't particularly close to him, but I've met him enough to be polite. She immediately announced that she wanted me to be in the wedding planning process, which is something I generally enjoy, but I warned her that I have a very different style than she does. I'm organized, meticulous, and don't like wasting money, while Jenna is more spontaneous and tends to overspend. I said I could help with advice and support, but I couldn't guarantee doing all the planning her way. She didn't like that answer, but okay, I thought it was fine. A few months into the planning, she asked me to host a pre-wedding brunch at my apartment. I was taken aback because my apartment isn't huge, but I said yes, figuring I could make it work with a smaller guest list. I spent weeks preparing, cleaning, buying decorations, preparing food, and coordinating timing. I even borrowed some extra chairs and tables from a friend. On the day of the brunch, everything seemed fine until Jenna started pointing out things she didn't like. She complained about the table setting, said the appetizers weren't fancy enough, and criticized the playlist I made. I tried to brush it off and adjust where I could, but it felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. Then, the worst part happened. Her fiancé, Mark, accidentally spilled a glass of juice on my brand new rug. I quickly grabbed some paper towels to clean it up, and Jenna immediately started yelling at him, which I completely understand, but then she turned to me and said, in front of everyone, "I don't know why you even bother. You clearly don't know how to host properly. Maybe you should leave and let the adults handle this." Everyone at the brunch went silent. I was humiliated. My parents looked uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. I tried to laugh it off, but inside I was fuming. After that, I left the brunch early. I sent her a text later saying that I felt disrespected and humiliated, and that I couldn't continue helping with the wedding if she treated me like that. She called me multiple times and sent long texts saying I was overreacting, that it was just a little comment, and that I should get over it. She even suggested that I was being dramatic and selfish. I decided to step back from the wedding completely. I told her I wouldn't host any events, I wouldn't help with the planning, and I wouldn't be responsible for anything. My parents are furious at me. They say I'm being unreasonable, that family is supposed to support each other, and that I should suck it up for her big day. My friends, on the other hand, are all saying that I have every right to set boundaries and that her behavior was completely unacceptable. The tension is unbearable. Jenna keeps sending passive-aggressive texts and posts on social media about family drama without naming me, which I know is about me. I'm trying to ignore it, but I also feel guilty because I know this is her wedding and she's stressed, but at the same time, I cannot pretend that what happened didn't happen. Here's where it gets worse. Jenna has now told some of our extended family that I refused to support her wedding and that I walked out on her in a time of need. I've received texts from aunts and cousins asking why I'm being so mean. I responded honestly, explaining that I felt humiliated at the brunch and that I didn't want to be treated that way. Some relatives think I should apologize to smooth things over, even if I feel justified. I feel like if I apologize just to make her feel better, it undermines the boundaries I've tried to set and sends the message that it's okay for her to publicly humiliate me. But if I don't apologize, our family dynamics are going to be tense for years, especially because she has a lot of influence in our family. So, Reddit, here's the question. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding events and stepping back from planning after she humiliated me in front of everyone at the brunch? I feel like I have a right to protect myself, but my parents and some family members think I'm overreacting. I just don't know if I'm being too harsh or if she really crossed the line. I'm willing to hear tough love, but I really need an honest judgment here because my family is divided and I feel like I'm losing my own support system. Character count, 6,244 if you want. I can also draft an even longer version hitting closer to 7,000 characters with extra details like flashbacks, text exchanges, and family reactions to make it feel exactly like a top Reddit AITA post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé be a part of our family wedding because of his past actions? I, 28F, am currently planning my wedding with my fiancé, Tom, 30M, and things were going smoothly until recently when a major conflict arose regarding my younger sister, Lila, 25F, and her fiancé, Ben, 27M. I feel torn because I love my sister, but I also feel strongly about my boundaries and the safety of my guests. A bit of context, Lila and I have always been close, though we have very different personalities. I tend to be cautious and organized, while she is more impulsive and carefree. Over the years, I've learned to accept her choices, even if I don't always agree with them. That said, Ben has been a point of tension for a while. When Lila first started dating him, she told me he had a history of violent behavior in his previous relationships. At first, I was skeptical because people can change, but after meeting him a few times and hearing some concerning stories from mutual friends, I became uncomfortable with him being around our family, especially during important events. I never wanted to interfere with their relationship, so I tried to stay out of it. Lila always assured me that Ben had changed and that he was committed to her. I respected that, but the unease never completely went away. Fast forward to a few months ago, when I got engaged to Tom. Naturally, Lila was thrilled and wanted to help with planning. She also insisted on Ben being involved in some aspects of the wedding planning, including attending the dress fittings and helping coordinate the rehearsal dinner. Initially, I tried to accommodate this. I thought I could find a way for Ben to be involved in a safe and limited capacity. However, about 6 weeks ago, a serious issue came up. One evening, while helping my mother decorate for the rehearsal dinner, Ben got into a heated argument with my cousin over a trivial issue. It escalated to the point where Ben shoved my cousin against a wall. No one was seriously hurt, but everyone was shaken. My cousin called my mom afterward, and she told me what had happened. I confronted Lila immediately, explaining that I could not have someone with a history of violence around our wedding, especially in close proximity to our family and friends. I suggested that Ben could stay home that day and celebrate with us afterward if he wanted, but he could not attend the ceremony or the rehearsal dinner. Lila was furious. She said I was overreacting and that I was punishing her fiancé for a past that didn't define him now. She accused me of being controlling and trying to dictate her relationship choices. I tried to explain that my decision was about safety and the comfort of everyone attending, not about controlling her. I even offered to have a private discussion with Ben to establish boundaries and ensure he would behave, but Lila refused. She said that by not allowing him to be present, I was humiliating her and undermining their relationship. Since then, things have gotten worse. Lila has been cold and distant toward me, and she's been telling our friends and family that I'm being unreasonable. My parents are in a difficult spot because they understand my concerns, but they also don't want to upset Lila. Meanwhile, Ben has tried to apologize, but I told him my decision wasn't personal. It was about maintaining a safe environment for everyone at the wedding. I've had friends and coworkers weigh in, and the reactions are mixed. Some think I'm doing the right thing, pointing out that weddings are stressful and that it's perfectly reasonable to prioritize the safety of guests. Others think I'm being too strict and should give Ben a chance to prove he's changed. At this point, the tension has affected my relationship with my sister. She has stopped talking to me except when she has to discuss wedding logistics. She has also hinted that she might not attend the wedding if Ben is not allowed, which would devastate me because I want her to be there on my special day. Tom has been supportive of my stance, emphasizing that he trusts my judgment and agrees that our wedding should be a safe environment for everyone. I feel guilty because I know Lila is hurt, but I also feel strongly that my wedding should be free from any risk of aggression or conflict. I've considered hiring security to make sure everyone feels safe, but I worry that might escalate the tension further. I've also thought about postponing the wedding, but that feels unfair to Tom and all the other guests who have already made plans. I know my stance may seem extreme to some, but after what happened with my cousin, I just can't take the risk. I also know that this might permanently affect my relationship with my sister, which I deeply regret. I'm torn between my desire to have a safe, peaceful wedding and my love for my sister. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend our wedding because of his past behavior and the recent incident with my cousin. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding after finding out about his past. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding for almost a year now, and it's been a roller coaster, but things were going fairly smoothly. My fiancé, Jake, 30M, and I are very private people, and we're trying to make our wedding about family and close friends. I've always been close with my younger sister, Mia, 25F, although our relationship has had its ups and downs. Lately, things with her have been a bit strained because of her dating life, but I never thought it would affect my wedding, until now. A few weeks ago, Mia announced that she wanted to bring her new boyfriend, Mark, to the wedding. She told me that he's amazing, super sweet, and very family-oriented. I hadn't met him yet, but I assumed she knew what she was doing. I asked her a few basic questions about him, where he works, how long they've been dating, nothing personal or intrusive, and she brushed me off, saying I'd meet him at the wedding. I was a bit concerned because Mia tends to rush into relationships and often hides aspects of her dating life, but I decided to let it slide. A couple of days later, my fiancé stumbled across a public news article that mentioned Mark in relation to a criminal case from a few years ago. Apparently, Mark had been arrested for embezzlement at his previous workplace, though the case was settled with a plea deal and some restitution. At first, I wasn't sure if it was serious, but after digging a bit, I also found multiple online reports and forum posts where people described negative experiences with him in professional and personal settings. I won't go into specifics, but the allegations included deceit, manipulation, and a pattern of people claiming he took advantage of them financially. I confronted Mia about it. I didn't want to make her defensive, so I tried to be gentle. I said, "Mia, I just found some things about Mark online, and I'm concerned about him coming to the wedding. Can we talk about it?" She immediately became defensive and angry. She said, "Are you kidding me? You've barely met him. You're judging him based on gossip. He's changed and I love him. You're not the boss of who I bring." I explained that this is my wedding, and I wanted the day to feel safe and comfortable for everyone involved. I told her that given what we know publicly about his past, I didn't feel comfortable having him there, at least not in a guest capacity. Mia's reaction escalated. She called me controlling, paranoid, and overreacting. She accused me of trying to ruin her relationship, and said that my wedding should not be a political trial for her boyfriend. I reminded her that I wasn't asking her to break up with him or making any accusations about her. I was simply asking that he not attend my wedding due to serious concerns. She responded by saying that she would bring him anyway and that if I tried to stop her, she wouldn't attend the wedding at all. This was huge because she's been emotionally unstable at times, and I've known her to follow through on threats like this. I tried to compromise. I suggested that she come without him, or that she introduce him to us in a separate setting after the wedding so that I could meet him first. She refused outright. Then, she started sending passive-aggressive messages to my fiancé, questioning whether he had any say in this. When Jake found out, he told me he understood my perspective and agreed that the wedding should feel safe and comfortable for everyone. He said that while he didn't know Mark personally, he trusted my judgment. Still, he was worried about the fallout with Mia, as he knows how emotionally volatile she can be. I reached out to my parents for advice. My mom said she understood my concerns, but was worried about Mia not showing up. She also mentioned that banning a guest could cause a bigger family feud. My dad was more direct and supportive, saying that it's my wedding and that if we don't feel comfortable with someone being there, it's completely within our rights to ask them not to come. Despite my parents' support, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I worried about what would happen if Mia showed up with him anyway and the tension it would create on my wedding day. I also started thinking about the safety of my other guests, including elderly relatives and children who might not know his background and could be vulnerable. I made the decision to send Mia a firm message. She could either attend alone or not at all. I explained clearly that it wasn't personal against her, but that this was a hard boundary for me. I also mentioned that I was willing to meet Mark in a neutral setting if she wanted me to understand him better, but he could not attend the wedding itself. The response I got was immediate and explosive. She called me heartless, accused me of trying to control her life, and said she might never speak to me again. She then blocked me on social media and hasn't responded to calls or texts. Now, a week later, I'm left in a difficult position. My fiancé supports me completely, and my closest friends and some extended family think I'm in the right. But I feel guilty because this has clearly hurt Mia, and I do love her. I also feel anxious thinking about the potential fallout if she decides not to come. I've been second-guessing myself, wondering if I overreacted or if I could have handled it differently. But at the same time, I feel like I did what was necessary to protect the integrity and safety of my wedding day. So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding because of concerns about his past. Character count, 6,582 if you want. I can also create a second variation with even more drama and subtle emotional manipulation, which tends to get huge engagement on Reddit. This one is already in the popular story style, though. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my nephew stay with us after his parents kicked him out for refusing to follow their strict rules. I, 38F, live with my husband, Daniel, 40M, and our two kids, Sophie, 10F, and Leo, 7M, in a suburban area. My younger brother, Ryan, 35M, and his wife, Kate, 34F, have a son, Liam, 15M, who has always been bright and creative but sometimes clashes with his parents. They are very strict and controlling, especially about schoolwork, chores, and social life. Over the years, Liam has come to me for advice or comfort because he feels stifled at home. I've always tried to support him, but I've also respected my brother and sister-in-law's authority. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Liam at 11 p.m. He sounded upset and whispered that his parents were furious because he had refused to go to a summer coding camp they signed him up for. Apparently, he wanted to take a short break instead, and they demanded he attend. When he refused, they kicked him out of the house, saying he could sleep in a park or with relatives if he didn't obey. I was shocked and tried to calm him down. I asked if he could stay somewhere else temporarily, but he said he had nowhere to go and begged me to let him stay with us. I immediately called Daniel and explained the situation. Daniel and I both agreed that I didn't feel comfortable taking him in overnight without talking to his parents first. We didn't want to encourage him to run away, and I also didn't want to create a permanent conflict with my brother and his wife. I called Ryan and Kate to discuss the situation, but they were furious that Liam had called me without their permission. Ryan yelled that he's our son, and we know what's best for him, and accused me of encouraging his rebellion. Kate added that Liam needed to learn discipline and that we were coddling him. I tried to explain that I just wanted to ensure Liam's immediate safety and that I wasn't planning to keep him indefinitely. I offered that he could stay with us temporarily while we all figured out a plan, but they refused, insisting that he should face the consequences of disobedience. After a long and heated argument, I told them I couldn't force Liam to stay with us against their wishes and that he could return home if he wanted. Liam was crying on the phone, saying he was scared and didn't know where to go. That night, I stayed up worrying. I wanted to help Liam, but I also didn't want to cause a massive family conflict or break the law by harboring a minor without parental consent. I considered calling Child Protective Services because I was worried about his safety, but I hesitated, thinking it might make the situation worse. I ended up texting Liam, telling him to stay safe, and that he could call us anytime if he felt unsafe, but we couldn't let him stay in our home without his parents' agreement. The next day, Liam's parents sent me a furious email accusing me of encouraging disobedience and undermining their authority. They wrote that if I had taken Liam in, I would have been interfering in parental rights and teaching him to disrespect his family. I responded politely, reiterating that I had wanted to help, but I couldn't let him stay without their consent. They replied that they expected more loyalty from family and that I was choosing the child over the parents in a way that was unacceptable. Meanwhile, Liam started reaching out to me secretly, asking why I didn't let him stay and saying that he felt abandoned. I felt heartbroken. I love my nephew, and it was painful to tell him no when he was scared and alone. I also felt trapped because I didn't want to damage my relationship with my brother and sister-in-law. I've offered emotional support, money for a hotel, and help finding temporary housing, but Liam insists he wants to be with us, and his parents are refusing to compromise. I'm exhausted from the stress. My husband supports me, saying I did the right thing legally and morally, but part of me feels like I let Liam down. Some extended family members have criticized me for not protecting the boy, while others have said I did the right thing by respecting his parents' authority and avoiding legal trouble. I worry about Liam's safety and emotional well-being, but I also worry about escalating the conflict with Ryan and Kate. The tension has affected family gatherings. Every time we see Liam or his parents, there's palpable anger and resentment. Liam avoids eye contact with me, and his parents have become cold and distant. I feel torn between wanting to protect him and not wanting to interfere in their parenting decisions. I've tried mediating, offering compromises, and finding alternative solutions, but nothing seems to satisfy anyone. So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to let my 15-year-old nephew stay with us after his parents kicked him out, even though I was worried about his safety and he begged me for help. Characters, 6,973. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé take over our family home while he's deployed. I, 32F, have always been really close with my family, especially my younger brother, Jake, 28M. We grew up in a small house in the suburbs that my parents bought when I was 8. Our parents recently passed away, my dad 2 years ago, my mom last year, and I inherited the house because I was living there at the time and have been taking care of them in their final years. I've always been the responsible sibling, handling bills, paperwork, and the general upkeep of the house. Jake joined the military right out of high school, and since then, we've always been in touch, but he's moved around a lot. He's currently deployed overseas, and I know he's under a lot of stress. Before he left, he got engaged to his fiancée, Clara, 27F, who I've met a few times. She's sweet enough in small doses, but I always felt like she had this subtle habit of undermining me or making me feel like my opinions didn't matter, especially when it came to family matters. A few weeks ago, Jay called me. He sounded worried and said that Clara had been complaining about how far away the house was from her job and that she didn't want to deal with living somewhere so small and old-fashioned when he comes back. He then casually suggested that when he returns, maybe I could let them move into the house for a while, since it would be easier for them than getting an apartment in the city. He framed it as if it would be temporary until they found something permanent, but knowing Clara, I felt like temporary could stretch indefinitely. I told him that I didn't feel comfortable with that. This house isn't just a building. It's full of memories of our childhood, our parents, and all the years I've lived there. I also take care of my elderly cat, Max, who has anxiety issues, and I wasn't sure how he'd react to strangers coming in and out constantly. I tried to explain all of this gently to Jake, but he seemed frustrated and accused me of being selfish. He said, "It's not like she wants to live there forever. We're just trying to make things easier for both of us." I thought you'd understand. I stayed firm and said no. A few days later, I got a message from Clara on Facebook. I've never really been friends with her, but she added me after their engagement. It was long and passive-aggressive, basically saying that I was being cold, controlling, and petty, and that Jake deserved to have some stability in his life. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.